Before you drop a quarter into a vending machine or toss one into a fountain for luck, ask yourself this: what if that small piece of silver alloy was not worth just 25 cents, but hundreds, even thousands of dollars? What if it carried the story of a state, of a revolution, of a colony that became the cornerstone of the American identity? This is not just any coin. This is the 2000 Maryland State Quarter, a coin that is more than just change in your pocket. It's a time machine disguised in copper and nickel, minted as part of the revolutionary 50 State Quarters program. The Maryland Quarter holds within it not only the pride of the old line state, but secrets of minting errors, hidden rarities, unspoken histories, and a legacy that stretches back to the very roots of the United States. This video isn't just going to show you a coin, it's going to take you deep into a forgotten world where history, value, rarity, politics, and art collided in the year 2000 when America looked back to honor each of its states with a quarter. The Maryland coin emerged with a story few could match, adorned with the State House dome, the oldest still in legislative use in the United States. This quarter silently screams revolution with every single detail you see. That dome is not just architecture, it's a symbol of American defiance. It was here that Maryland's delegates decided to stand by the Declaration of Independence. It was here that George Washington resigned as commander-in-chief, setting the foundation for the idea of civilian government, and it was here that the nation began imagining itself free and sovereign. This coin holds all of that compressed into a surface smaller than a cookie, and that is just the beginning. Because the real mystery starts with how it was struck, where it was struck, and what errors came out of that process. From rare off-center strikes to double dies, from coins that slip through with missing clad layers, to those minted on experimental planchets, the 2000 Maryland Quarter has produced a surprising number of collectible anomalies that are still being discovered to this day. And while some of these error coins have sold for hundreds of dollars, others are believed to be so rare that their actual value could skyrocket if one ever appears at auction again. Now let's talk about the minting process in Philadelphia and Denver, and the lesser-known proof coins minted in San Francisco. These weren't just coins, they were deliberate pieces of history meant to mark the new millennium. The machines used, the alloys, the punches, the dies, and even the quality control practices all played a role in determining which quarters became priceless rarities and which faded into the pockets of time. And if you think this is only about coin collecting, think again. The Maryland Quarter is a story of political symbolism. It's a story of how states chose to represent themselves in the dawn of a new century. Some states went with nature, some with industry, but Maryland stood proud with the dome that had seen revolution and transformation. The intricate engraving, the leaf ornamentation, the Latin motto, Fati Maschi Parole Femin, which translates to manly deeds, womanly words. All these etchings on this tiny coin are tied to deeper roots of Maryland's colonial identity, which goes all the way back to the early 1600s and was marked by religious struggle, tobacco, wealth, border wars, and rebellion. In this video, we are going to go back to those centuries. We are going to explore why Maryland's nickname, the Old Line State, matters, and how it became so closely tied to the bravery of its troops during the American Revolution. We are going to follow the birth of the State House in Annapolis, from its wooden shingle dome to its foundational role in the Continental Congress. And we are going to examine how all the symbolism was chosen and refined during the State Quarter design competition. We'll also explore the financial side, the real current market values of the 2000 Maryland Quarters in circulated and uncirculated condition, how grading impacts value, how collectors use mint marks and die varieties to identify the truly valuable pieces, and what key features you need to look for with just a magnifier and good lighting. Whether you're a coin collector, a history lover, or just someone curious about the wealth hidden in everyday things, this is the story you've never been told. The next time someone hands you a Maryland Quarter, look twice. You might be holding a forgotten fortune and a piece of America's beating heart. The year is 2000 and the United States Mint is in full swing with one of the most ambitious and successful coin programs in American History: the 50-state quarters program launched in 1999. This initiative was more than just a celebration of American federalism, it was a masterstroke of public engagement, historical education, and numismatic innovation. Each quarter would commemorate a U.S. state in the order it ratified the Constitution or was admitted into the Union. And in the third release of the year 2000, the spotlight turned to the state of Maryland. This is not just a 25-cent piece. This is a gateway to a story that spans centuries, a story of rebellion, politics, architecture, war, revolution, and craftsmanship. The 2000 Maryland quarter, minted by the U.S. Mint, is a tribute to the old line state, and it carries with it not only symbols of state pride, but also rare minting errors, numismatic anomalies, and a deep historical resonance that many people overlook. To understand the Maryland quarter, we must first understand the history of Maryland itself. Founded as a colony in 1632 by Lord Baltimore, Maryland was originally envisioned as a haven for English Catholics escaping persecution. It was one of the original 13 colonies and played a pivotal role in the American Revolution. Its central location between the North and South made it a key player in political negotiations and military strategy. The term Old Line State is believed to refer to the Maryland line troops who bravely held the line during the Revolutionary War, specifically at the Battle of Long Island. Their discipline and sacrifice became legendary, earning the state its enduring nickname. When it came time to design the quarter that would represent Maryland, the decision was made to feature the Maryland State House located in Annapolis. This is no ordinary state capitol building. It is the oldest state capitol in continuous legislative use in the United States, and it is the only one to have served as the nation's capital during the Continental Congress era. It was in this very building that George Washington resigned his commission as Commander-in-Chief on December 23, 1783, an act that confirmed the supremacy of civilian authority over the military and set a powerful precedent for the new republic. The dome of the State House, which appears prominently on the Maryland quarter, is an architectural marvel constructed entirely of wood and built without nails. The dome has become a symbol not only of Maryland's colonial heritage, but of its revolutionary courage. Surrounding the dome on the coin are two white oak branches, a nod to the state tree and a further symbol of strength and endurance. Beneath the image is the inscription, "The Old Line State," a succinct yet powerful reminder of Maryland's historical identity. Coin's obverse features the familiar profile of George Washington, adapted from John Flanagan's original 1932 design for the Washington quarter and consistent across all the state quarters issued from 1999 to 2008. The reverse design of the Maryland quarter was crafted by Maryland artist and engraver Thomas D. Rogers Sr., whose work with the U.S. Mint includes several prominent coin designs. His representation of the State House dome is not only accurate but rich in texture and dimensionality, capturing both the grandeur and subtlety of this historic structure. Now, let us turn to the production details. The 2000 Maryland quarter was struck at 3 facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia and Denver mints produced circulation strikes with the familiar P and D mint marks respectively, while the San Francisco Mint produced proof versions of the coin in both clad and 90% silver varieties for collectors. The total mintage was immense. Over 1.2 billion Maryland quarters were produced for circulation, making it one of the more common state quarters in terms of volume. However, quantity does not necessarily mean lack of value, especially when it comes to numismatic rarities and minting aurora among collectors. The Maryland quarter is known for several interesting error varieties, including off-center strikes, double dies, die cracks, and coins struck on improperly prepared planchets. One of the most intriguing varieties is the missing clad layer error, which results in a coin appearing copper in color because the outer nickel coating was never applied. These errors are rare and can fetch between $100 and $500 depending on condition and certification by a third-party grader. Another highly sought after variety is the double die reverse, where certain elements of the coin, such as the leaf veins or dome windows, show signs of doubling. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly between impressions. These types of errors can be difficult to spot without magnification, but they are cherished by collectors and often command high premiums. Even more valuable are full step proof-like strikes from the Denver and Philadelphia mints in mint state grades such as Ms. 67 and higher. Only a few hundred Maryland quarters have been graded at this level by PCGs and NGC combined, and these coins regularly sell for several $100s at auction, particularly if they exhibit strong luster, minimal contact marks, and good strike definition. Let us now look at the broader historical and cultural significance of the quarter program and how Maryland's contribution fits into that narrative. The 50-state quarters program was launched by the U.S. This is not just a 25-cent piece, it is a window into the spirit of the bluegrass state, a coin minted in the heart of a new millennium that carries more than silver and copper. It carries the weight of American tradition, the pride of Kentucky's rolling hills, and the echoes of horse hooves racing through time. The 2001 Kentucky State Quarter is a masterpiece of symbolic storytelling, tucked inside your pocket change. And in this video, we peel back every layer of its rich history, from its creation in the U.S. Mint to the deep-rooted legacy it honors with the legendary Federal Hill Mansion that inspired Stephen Foster's My Old Kentucky Home, the very song that became the heartbeat of the Kentucky Derby and the Commonwealth's cultural identity. We explore the economic conditions of 2001 when this quarter entered circulation amidst a changing America, in a time when analog was giving way to digital and coins like these were becoming more than just currency, they were time capsules. Collectors sought them, everyday people spent them, but few stopped to understand what this quarter truly represents: its mintage numbers, the design process, the artist's background, the numismatic value today, whether in mint state condition or circulated, and the fascinating fluctuations of its worth in collector circles over the decades. We also dive into what makes this coin different from all others minted that year, from errors and die varieties to the specifics that can raise its value from 25 cents to several dollars, and sometimes more. And as we go deeper into the details, we take you through the entire journey of how this coin was proposed, approved, minted, distributed, and how it became part of a national campaign to teach history through pocket change. This is more than a history lesson. This is a story of state pride, of artistic expression, of American coinage evolution, and of hidden treasure in plain sight. So whether you are a seasoned collector, someone who just found this coin in your change jar, or a history buff hungry for lost stories, this 2-hour deep dive will give you a complete understanding of the 2001 Kentucky State Quarter like never before. Welcome to Old Quarter's dollar value, and prepare to look at your change with new eyes. For the year was 2001, and across America, people were still adjusting to a new century, a new millennium, and a rapidly evolving world of technology, culture, and national identity. But even as skyscrapers rose and digital devices crept into every home, one small piece of metal was quietly carrying the legacy an entire state into the hands of millions. That piece was the 2001 Kentucky State Quarter, part of the now legendary 50-state quarters program, a program that revolutionized modern American coinage and changed the way people saw the money they used every single day. While most quarters are spent, forgotten, and passed from hand to hand, the Kentucky Quarter stood out not only for its beauty, but for the deep cultural and historical narrative it carried within it. And in order to understand why this coin matters, we have to go back not to 2001, but to the very roots of Kentucky itself. Kentucky officially became the 15th state to join the Union in 1792, a land defined by fertile fields, limestone-rich soil, and a long-standing relationship with horses and the rural Southern spirit. It is the birthplace of bourbon, the cradle of bluegrass music, and the home of some of the most iconic landscapes in the American imagination. And when it came time for the U.S. Mint to design a quarter that would represent this storied land, there was no question about what imagery would be chosen. On the reverse side of the coin, the elegant silhouette of a thoroughbred horse stands proudly behind a wooden fence, gazing toward the Federal Hill Mansion, a Greek revival estate immortalized in Stephen Foster's 1853 song My Old Kentucky Home, a melody that would go on to become Kentucky's official state song and an unofficial anthem for the Kentucky Derby. For more than a century, this house, located near Bardstown, Kentucky, has been a symbol of Southern tradition and hospitality, and the horse itself represents not only the state's identity, but its economic backbone, as Kentucky is globally renowned for its horse breeding and racing industry. The coin's design was created by artist T. James Farrell, whose work had to go through a long and meticulous selection process. As part of the 50 State Quarters program, the program itself had started just 2 years earlier in 1999 under the direction of the United States Mint as a way to honor each of the 50 states in the order they joined the Union, and the goal was not only to stimulate interest in coin collecting but to educate the public about the unique history and contributions of every state. And it worked in ways nobody imagined. Coin collecting boom. Schools began using quarters in their history lessons, and the public became more engaged with numismatics than at any time since the mid-20th century. The Kentucky quarter was the final quarter released in 2001 following New York, North Carolina, Rhode Island, and Vermont. It was officially released to the public on October 15, 2001, and immediately began circulating across the country. Now let's talk about the mintage figures and the types of the Kentucky quarter. The coin was struck in 3 different United States Mint facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 353 million Kentucky quarters, while the Denver Mint produced over 370 million. And the San Francisco Mint, which focused on proof coins, made just over 3 million clad proofs and over 888,000 silver proof coins for collectors. In total, more than 726 million circulation strike coins were made, making the Kentucky quarter widely accessible. But as always in coin collecting, accessibility is not the only factor. Condition, strike clarity, mint mark, and die varieties play an enormous role in the coin's long-term value in the numismatic market. No, while a circulated Kentucky quarter found in pocket change is still worth only face value, there are certain specimens that can command much more money, especially in high mint state condition with Ms. 67 or Ms. 68 grades. Examples: certified by PCGs or NGC in pristine condition have sold for $20 to $75, with some auction results reaching over $200 for top pop coins that are nearly flawless. And remember, these values fluctuate based on demand, rarity, and collector interest. But in the world of state quarters, there is always movement, especially when it comes to error coins. And that is where the Kentucky quarter story gets even more interesting. Among the most desirable Kentucky quarter errors are the off-center strikes, the broad strikes, the double dies, and die clashes. And there are even a few reported struck-through errors which occur when foreign material interferes during the minting process, resulting in wild irregularities on the coin's surface. One particular known example is a 2001p Kentucky quarter with a reverse die clash error that sold for well over $100 in a collector auction. And while these errors are rare, they are always worth watching out for, and that is part of the thrill for collectors and treasure hunters. But the Kentucky quarter is more than numbers and errors. It is a coin that encapsulates the mood of America in 2001, when the country was on the cusp of deep change following the September 11th attacks. The release of the Kentucky quarter came just 1 month later, and while that was not planned, it ended up being symbolic for many collectors who saw this coin and its depiction of peace, nature, and tradition as a reminder of the American values they held dear in a time of national grief and uncertainty. Coins are always reflections of the times in which they are made, and the Kentucky quarter was no exception. It carried a message of quiet resilience, a nod to simpler times, and a celebration of the unshakable American spirit rooted in the land and its history. We explore the full journey of how this quarter came to be, from its legislative roots to final production. The process began years before its release, when the Kentucky State Quarter Committee was formed to choose a design that represented the state's heritage. Multiple designs were considered, and Kentuckians were invited to submit Ideas and vote on favorites. Finally, the chosen design combining the horse, the fence, and Federal Hill was approved by Governor Paul E. Patton and sent to the U.S. Mint for final refinement and engraving. The coins were struck on a standard-clad planchet made of copper and nickel with a diameter of 24.26 millimeters and a weight of 5.67 grams. The coin's obverse retained the standard John Flanagan portrait of George Washington used in all state quarters with the inscriptions United States of America, Liberty, in God We Trust, and $quarter along with the mint mark and the year 2001. Before you throw that 2016 Fort Moultrie quarter into your pocket or spend it at the gas station, me take you deep into the story of how this quarter came to be a symbol of resistance, pride, revolution, and historical memory, because this is not just a coin, this is a time capsule frozen in metal, a coin that connects modern Americans to the raw defiance and determination that sparked the American Revolution and to the hallowed grounds of Sullivan's Island, South Carolina, where the fort stood against the British onslaught like a shield made of palmetto logs and sand. This is the story of the only American fort in 1776 to withstand a full-scale naval attack by the most powerful navy in the world, the British Royal Navy, and it is a story enshrined not just in textbooks or museums, but immortalized on a circulating quarter in your change jar right now, and we're going to uncover how that coin came to be minted in 2016 as part of the America the Beautiful Quarters program, what historical and political decisions led to its selection, what artistic choices were made to commemorate the battle scene, and the legendary Sergeant William Jasper, the hero portrayed on the reverse holding the flag aloft amid cannon fire, and how this image reflects centuries of Southern heritage, Charleston culture, and America's birth pangs. You'll learn about Fort Moultrie's original design made of palmetto logs that absorbed cannonballs like a sponge, the fierce June 28-1776 battle where outnumbered American patriots repelled the British fleet, and how the fort was later renamed in honor of Colonel William Moultrie, the commander whose strategy helped secure the critical early victory for independence. We'll go back to the early days of South Carolina's colonial history, how Charleston was the jewel of the southern colonies, and why Sullivan's Island served as the gateway to both the Atlantic and to foreign invasion, how the fort evolved through the centuries, serving in the Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, the Civil War, and beyond, and why that enduring military legacy made it the perfect candidate to be honored on one of only 56 quarters in the America the Beautiful series. We'll trace the steps of the United States Mint from the Coin Modernization, Oversight, and Continuity Act of 2010 to the detailed process of site nomination, public engagement, artistic renderings, and ultimately the release of this quarter in November 2016, and will break down the coin's design features from the obverse with the timeless Washington portrait to the reverse where the image of a defiant Jasper holds the regimental colors in defiance of tyranny. We'll dig into artist Richard Scott's vision and how that single image compresses years of history into an inch-wide metal canvas. We'll analyze the metallurgy of the coin, how it was struck, where it was minted, how many were produced across the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, and what variations like uncirculated proofs, silver versions, or error coins might now be worth to collectors from a few dollars to hundreds in special conditions. And we'll put that in the context of the numismatic market, exploring how demand for state and park quarters evolved, what drives their value, what collectors are really after when it comes to low mintage, error varieties, high-grade slabs or coins with historical significance, and how this one quarter ties into broader collector trends across America. So join us on this in-depth 2-hour journey where we connect the dots between American history, military strategy, colonial politics, coin design, minting technology, and modern coin collecting, because this isn't just a story about an old quarter, it's about the legacy of freedom carved into a beachhead fortress, the spirit of rebellion pressed into copper and nickel, and the American story told in 25 cents. Welcome to Old Quarters Dollar Value, where we bring forgotten coins and forgotten history back to life. In 2016, The United States Mint released a coin that holds far more weight than its 25-cent denomination suggests. The Fort Moultrie, South Carolina quarter is more than just currency. It is a miniature monument to one of the most heroic early moments of American resistance against the British Empire. It is a piece of metal that, when closely studied, reveals the legacy of courage, fortitude, and patriotism that defined a revolutionary era and carved the foundation of what would become the United States of America. In this comprehensive documentary, we will explore every angle of this quarter, from the historical background that inspired it to the coin's artistic design, production, mintage, and collector value. To begin understanding the story of the 2016 Fort Moultrie quarter, we have to go back not just to the 20th century when it was minted, but to the 18th century, to June 28, 1776, to the sands of Sullivan's Island in Charleston, South Carolina, where colonial American forces made a stand that shocked the world. The quarter depicts a critical moment during the Battle of Sullivan's Island, part of the American Revolutionary War that took place just days before the signing of the Declaration of Independence. While most of the colonies were still torn between loyalty to the Crown and the cause of freedom, South Carolinians had already made their decision. The British Navy had assembled a fleet of 9 warships, with over 270 cannon and thousands of troops, and aimed to storm Charleston and crush colonial resistance. The city was defended by a makeshift palmetto log fort built on Sullivan's Island, which had yet to even be named Fort Moultrie. Its walls were unfinished, its garrison under-trained and under-equipped. The British believed the fort would fall within hours. What they didn't expect was the sheer resolve of the Americans defending it, led by Colonel William Moultrie and a defiant sergeant named William Jasper. Sergeant Jasper is the central figure honored on the reverse of the Fort Moultrie quarter. During the height of the British bombardment, a cannon blast struck the American flagpole, sending the flag crashing to the ground. Jasper braved relentless cannon fire, climbed the wall, and held the flag aloft with his bare hands, refusing to let the symbol of their resistance fall. This act of bravery became an instant legend, and his image with flag in hand under a barrage of shells is what was later immortalized on the coin. The British fired for over 10 hours, but their cannonballs were absorbed by the spongy palmetto logs and sand packed into the fort's walls. They had underestimated the ingenuity and tenacity of the defenders. Ultimately, the British were forced to retreat. The American victory at Sullivan's Island was one of the first significant colonial wins against British forces, and it lifted morale across the colonies. It was a sign that the fight for independence was not in vain, and the British were not invincible. Fort was later named Fort Moultrie in honor of Colonel William Moultrie, the commander who had stood firm in the face of overwhelming odds over the centuries. The fort evolved. It was rebuilt and reinforced during the War of 1812, and served again during the American Civil War as part of the Confederate Coastal Defense Network, and later even as a World War II installation, but its legacy remained rooted in its revolutionary origins, and that was what the United States Mint aimed to celebrate when it selected Fort Moultrie as one of the sites featured in the America the Beautiful Quarters program. The America the Beautiful series was launched in 2010 following the popular 50-state quarters program, and aimed to highlight national parks, historic sites, and monuments across all 50 states and territories. Fort Moultrie was chosen to represent South Carolina, and the design process began in collaboration with the National Park Service, historians, artists, and local officials. The final reverse design was created by Artistic Infusion Program artist Richard Scott and engraved by mint engraver Joseph Mena. It shows Sergeant Jasper in a dramatic pose, bearing the regimental flag through smoke and gunfire, with the palmetto trees of the island in the background. The words Fort Moultrie, South Carolina 2016, and E Pluribus Unum frame the image. The obverse of the coin features the classic portrait of George Washington, originally sculpted by John Flanagan, based on the 1932 design. Have you ever looked at a simple coin and wondered what secrets it holds? Have you ever held a 2007 Idaho quarter in your hand and thought it was just spare change? What if I told you that this one coin could take you on a journey deep into the heart of American history, state pride, natural beauty, and the enduring legacy of numismatic art. Welcome to the story of the 2007 Idaho Quarter, a piece of the United States Mint's 50 State Quarters program that captured not only the spirit of the gem state, but also the richness of a nation's coinage history. This is not just another state quarter, this is a tribute to a bird that ruled the skies, a state that shaped the American West, and a minting process that reflects decades of evolution, precision, and storytelling. Launched into circulation in June 2007. This quarter features the peregrine falcon, one of the world's fastest birds, returned to its wild habitat through heroic conservation efforts, with the word Esto Perpetua, meaning "let it be perpetual," engraved beside it. But the story does not start in 2007. To truly understand the Idaho Quarter, we must go back to the roots of the 50 State Quarters program, initiated in 1999, a revolutionary initiative from the United States Mint, designed not only to celebrate the unique identity of each state, but also to spark national pride and teach history through everyday currency. Idaho, being the 43rd state to join the Union, had its turn late in the program and took it seriously. With over 40,000 public submissions narrowed down to a final design that was both symbolically rich and visually striking. But to grasp the full value of this coin, you must understand Idaho itself. A land of towering mountains, rushing rivers, and untamed wilderness, a land that helped build the frontier spirit and continues to carry the banner of conservation and environmental stewardship forward. The coin's central image, the peregrine falcon perched on an outline of the state, is no accident. It was chosen with intention, symbolizing not only Idaho's commitment to wildlife, but also the successful efforts to restore the species from the brink of extinction following the catastrophic use of DDT in the 20th century. This story of survival mirrors the struggles and triumphs of the American people as a whole. Now is talk mintage. The Denver Mint produced over 224 million of these coins, while the Philadelphia Mint struck over 288 million, making it widely circulated. Yet select high-quality specimens, especially those graded Ms. 68 or higher, command premiums in the collector's market. But beyond condition, collectors also seek errors and varieties such as off-center strikes, die cracks, or doubled dies, which can significantly increase the coin's value. And when we talk value, we're not just talking money, we're talking cultural value, historical weight, and artistic merit. The Idaho Quarter is a miniature canvas that tells a powerful story, and its value goes far beyond face value, with some pristine specimens auctioned for hundreds of dollars. It has become a centerpiece in many numismatic collections, and yet millions pass it by without a second thought. In addition to its technical and aesthetic elements, the coin's message, Esto Perpetua, the state motto, offers a philosophical depth rarely seen on circulating coinage, a Latin phrase attributed to early Idaho leader Emma Edwards Green, the only woman to design a state seal in the United States history. The motto underscores the state's desire for lasting legacy, stability, and eternal beauty, something that resonates with coin collectors, historians, and patriots alike. We dive deeper into the design process, the coin's public engagement, the final decision by Idaho Governor Dirk Kempthorne, and the nationwide excitement that surrounded its release. Through press events, educational campaigns, and massive media coverage, this one small quarter represented not only a state, but a collective moment in American history. The coin was minted during a time of major technological advancement in coin production, using advanced dies, precision engraving, and high-speed presses that ensured consistency and quality while also making each coin an industrial marvel. We'll explore how Idaho's selection process compared to other states, what designs were rejected, and how the falcon beat out other iconic symbols like the potato and Shoshone Falls, all of which carried weight in representing the state's identity. We will also go beyond borders, looking at how other nations admire or overlook America's quarter program, and how international collectors view the Idaho coin as part of the larger numismatic puzzle. Then we go microscopic, analyzing the quarter's metal composition, edge reading, strike depth, and die alignment details that can make or break a grading score and determine whether you're holding a dollar or a small fortune. Finally, we look ahead at how the Idaho Quarter continues to inspire new generations of collectors, environmentalists, and educators, and how it remains a time capsule of early 21st century American values compressed into a 25-cent coin. If you want to understand American history, economics, design, nature, and storytelling all in one object, this is the story you need to hear. Welcome to the tale of the 2007 Idaho Quarter, and trust me, this is not just a coin. It is a legacy waiting to be rediscovered in your pocket change.